What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So I understand, the last couple of weeks, the talk for the push for Devin Booker to be the MVP of the league. This talk has gotten louder, in particular since Phoenix set a franchise record for wins this year at 63. And when you look at it from a historical standpoint, I understand that the last 40 years or so, last 35 to 40 years, oftentimes the perceived best player on the team with the best record has often been the MVP or at least amongst the leading candidates. Um, However, I have to say that I just don't see Devin Booker as a leading MVP candidate. I think he's going to get some votes, but he's not the leading MVP candidate. Me personally, I think that Nikola Jokic, Giannis, Joel Embiid, uh, I'd say DeMar DeRozan, Luca. There's some other guys too. I just can't think off the top of my head right now. Uh, there are other players who I will put ahead of him. Hell, even possibly Chris Paul, because the only thing that hurts Chris Paul is that he did miss a substantial amount of games this year. But let's look at some facts here. Um, let's look at two other Phoenix Suns players who won MVPs. One being Charles Barkley, the other being Steve Nash. Now, even though I do find it highly suspect that Steve Nash won two MVPs in a row, at least in his defense, his addition to the team did help to push that team to another level. Um, Prior to his arrival, uh, you could argue that Phoenix was a mediocre team, at least from my memory serves. They were a mediocre team. And then when he came back to Phoenix, because remember he was there before, he was drafted by Phoenix in 1996 for his first couple of years in Phoenix. But they had such a surplus of guards, particular point guards, Kevin Johnson and then Jason Kidd. They didn't need him. When he came back, he helped to elevate that team to, if not a championship level team, a really, really, really good team. So I can understand that he was very instrumental in that. He helped to change the trajectory of the team. Charles Barkley even more so. Before Charles Barkley arrived, Phoenix was a good team, but they were not on the same level as the Portland Trailblazers or some other rising teams like the Houston Rockets or the Utah Jazz or what have you. But Charles Barkley's arrival helped to push Phoenix to the best team, arguably, that year in the NBA. Even though ultimately they didn't win a championship, you could say they were probably the best team statistically in the league that year. And that was mostly because of the addition of Charles Barkley. That was a well deserved MVP award, especially considering the fact that some people feel that Charles Barkley should have won the MVP in 1990 over Magic Johnson because of how instrumental he was in leading that limited team to 53 victories. But this is different. Devin Booker, I'm not saying he didn't have a solid season, but statistically, this year doesn't really jump out over any other of his other seasons. Yes, he shot the three a little bit better this year. I think he's 37, 38%. But other than that, this is a standard all-star level season for Devin Booker. The guy that really changed the trajectory of this franchise was Chris Paul. And that can't be argued. Matter of fact, that's been a historical trait of his. It's very reminiscent of Jason Kidd. Wherever he goes, those teams improve. Whether, look, I just saw an interesting stat just yesterday. Um, the Hornets, right? The Hornets still have not had a team as successful as Chris Paul's when he was with the franchise when they won 56 games. All right. Uh, when he was with the Clippers, they have still not had a team as individually successful as the best Lob City years. Houston, when he was there, they set a franchise record for most wins, 65, right? They didn't get it done, but Chris Paul, before he got hurt, led that team to 65 wins in the regular season. Most people expected Chris Paul to fall flat on his face in OKC. He was washed up, many people said. Instead, he led that team to the playoffs. One of the great achievements in recent history in the NBA. And they almost beat the Houston Rockets, going all the way to Game 7, down to the last final moments. And look what he's doing with Phoenix now. Look what he's doing with Phoenix now. Look what he's doing with Phoenix now. NBA Finals, franchise record for victory. It's Chris Paul. But people are so enthralled by points and scoring and shooting. They don't really look at other aspects of the game. They don't look at influence. They don't look at leadership. Which is something that the Lakers lack this year. They don't. Do you really think of Chris Paul with the Lakers? They would only won 31 games. But anyway, people don't look at leadership. They don't look at certain, intangibles out there. They don't look at floor generalship. They don't look at. I noticed that a lot of younger fans, they don't really appreciate a real, actual, true point guard and what he does out there. They're so infatuated with these combo guards that gobble up, points and assists and shoot threes and, look good doing it. But they don't really appreciate what a real true point guard brings to the game. So I'm sorry, because of Chris Paul's influence on this team, I cannot put Devin Booker in that category as the MVP. You know. By the way, I saw something that was very, very hilarious in my opinion. I saw someone state on a video, right? And this was back when that Mad Dog Russo guy said that he thinks that the 1979 Sonics are more talented overall than this Suns team, which I agree with. Um, just person for person. And somebody in the comment section said, "Man, Devin Booker would drop 70 on those bombs." And I'm like, "Nigga, Devin Booker cries about contact today. He cries and whines and bitches and moans about a dinosaur distracting him at the free throw line. You trying to tell me a guy who is bothered by shit like that would magically go back to 1979 when the game was more physical and he's just going to kill them for 70. He's just going to somehow drop 70. Mind you, there was no 3-point line in 79, you dimwits. So the 25 points would be more like, guess what? 20, because he's not getting 4 or 5 threes a game. So that's 4 or 5 less points. But you can't argue with these dudes, man. They know everything, and they claim everybody that played basketball before 1995 was a bum. Everybody's bum, so whatever.